Alright, bet. We back on this thing, man. We back on this thing. We back on this thing. Make sure I'm looking alright. Alright. Gotta make sure we back lit. Damn, look, we got a solid 90 views. I think the first part 1 did slightly better. I want to say it did slightly better. So we got right here. We got Little Nightmares 2. Let's see a new nightmare. I'm probably at the top. Little Nightmares 2. This story explained. Dang, it's 29 minutes. All monsters explained. I guess the story explained would be better. Let's see.
Hey guys, Super Horror Bro Mike here, and in today's video we venture into a living nightmare as we join 2 children fighting to survive a world full of monstrous dangers at every turn. This is the story of Little Nightmares 2 Explained. Before beginning, let me quickly outline what this video entails. This exploration of Little Nightmares 2 will serve as both a story recap and theory video. We begin as I walk you, the viewer, through the game, beat by beat, acting as a nice way to catch up on the overall story and its most memorable moments. At certain points we will stop to don our theory caps and analyse key information, with special attention paid to that unforgettably strange and morbid ending and what exactly it all means. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this full breakdown of Little Nightmares 2's story and its ending. The game opens as we are drawn down a long corridor that bends and distorts before our very eyes.
Right.
A large doorway is found at the end of this corridor, with the door itself featuring a carving of the iconic eye symbol seen throughout the Little Nightmares series. Before we get to see what may lie behind this door, a blast of static sends us flying back out of a television screen in the middle of a forest clearing. Here, a young boy with a paper bag covering his head awakens with a jolt. This is Mono, our main protagonist and character we must navigate through the many deadly environments of Little Nightmares' world. Mono, seemingly without clear purpose, sets off into the gloomy woodland ahead. The deeper into these woods he ventures, the more hostile his surroundings become, forced to evade many dangers, including falling trees and bear traps hidden beneath the leafy floor by the local hunter. It isn't long before Mono reaches the cabin of this hunter, and upon finding his way inside, he makes a surprising discovery. Mono follows the sound of music downstairs, and locked inside a basement is a young girl who we know as Six, although her iconic yellow raincoat is nowhere to be seen. She plays a music box which emits a familiar tune.
What's good, idea?
Using a nearby axe, Mono manages to break down the door to Six's prison and spring her free. Unfortunately, she doesn't trust his kindness and takes flight. Mono manages to catch up to Six, who is attempting to reach the attic in order to secure her escape. The two soon realise that 2 heads, no matter how small, are certainly better than 1, and so form an uneasy alliance in order to survive. Now things begin to go a little more smoothly as the duo solve puzzles and work together to escape the hunter's clutches. It should also be noted at this point that I will not be going into too much of a detailed analysis and explanation of any of the game's monsters in this video. That will come in a separate video very shortly, or if you would like to see each of these terrors in their full uncut form, you can check out my full 5-part playthrough and see how I reacted to each of their various peculiarities. The hunter hot on their trail, Mono and Six outrun the glare of his flashlight and blasts of his shotgun. alone, wading through slimy swamps and desperately rushing from cover to cover until they happen upon a garden shed. 6 locks the door while Mono grabs a spare gun from the wall. It takes all of the strength the two can muster, but justice is served and the hunter given a taste of his own medicine.
Pop that thing, fresh body. Wow. I like that.
Clambering onto an old door, Mono and 6 take an awkward ride across a misty lake. 6 seems deeply troubled, and this unrest seems to be about more than the recent act of murder she just partook in. After all, she is no stranger to that. However, there isn't time to contemplate why, as the children soon find themselves washed ashore outside of a giant urban settlement. This colony is known as the Pale City. The buildings literally buckle and bend under the strain of a transmission emanating from a structure at its centre known as the Signal Tower. The tower is able to distort the very world around it and is responsible for the twisted appearance of the characters living within this nightmarish universe. At this time we learn a startling revelation in regard to Mono himself. He approaches a television which seems to be broadcasting a harmful signal. Upon touching the screen, Mono is able to warp and bend the image within. An image we are familiar with as it forms the hallway scene during the opening sequence of the game.
And at the
Mono
end,
straightens out this bendy tunnel and is then warped inside the screen itself. As he heads for the door at the far end, time itself begins to slow and Mono is ejected back into reality. For now, the hazardous transmission has been calmed, but what could lie behind the door in that in-between dimension? And why exactly is it calling out to Mono? Mono and 6 make their way inside the Pale City, and it isn't long before an ominous building blocks their path forward, a creepy old schoolhouse. Making their way inside this building leads to all manner of hardship. The school is inhabited by mischievous students known as the bullies, and a terrifying teacher watches over them. This teacher has been so warped by the signal tower that her neck is now able to stretch out like a snake to horrifying lengths. It is also worth noting what exactly it is these students are being taught by their teacher. Looking to the chalkboard here, and the scrawlings of this kid in detention here, we see an eerily common theme.
I should skip some
Sketches
of
of those
I already
all too
played the
familiar
game.
eyes, and furthermore, the ominous signal tower itself. It seems the broadcast infects every facet of this world, corrupting the very minds of its inhabitants and brainwashing them into blindly worshipping its rogue transmission. After becoming trapped inside a fallen locker, Mono finds himself powerless to help as 6 is overpowered and stolen away by a group of schoolhouse bullies. However, things are about to take a shocking turn. Mono removes the paper bag from his head and a swell of energy begins to form around him. We noted earlier in the video that Mono had the ability to access the dimension in between worlds, a place from which the signal tower seems to exist. He also had the ability to consume the glitches of those children taken by Finman. We now learn he has a very similar power. In fact, Mono is even stronger than his shadowy nemesis.
We don't need to know about this.
He takes on Finn, moving away from her music box so that our hero may sneak in for the attack, to return to his tormented friend. It seems the signal tower is able to pull from one's own memories. In Mono's case, it uses a memory he associates with 6, when he first freed her from imprisonment in the hunter's cabin, and applies it to his quest.
That's fire. That's fire. That's fire. That's fire. It's like it's all, they're dancing. It's like it's all connected. Okay.
To free her here. For 6, the music box is used, the one thing that kept her calm and collected while she was held prisoner herself. However, the tower...
I wonder how she got in the prison, or like how she was caged up. Where 6 at? I wonder how she got caged up. Was it the hunter? And why didn't why did the hunter not kill her?
Seems to use this memory
like before he wanted to kill us when we was together. Why he didn't kill her before?
Against Six, making sure she guards the object that binds her to this twisted form. We know this because when Mono finally delivers the finishing blow and destroys the music box, the signal tower loses its control over Six and returns her to human form. Now before we move on to the game's ending, I would like to briefly address my personal theory as to why Six looked and acted this way while held within the signal tower. When we think of what exactly the signal tower is, it seems to be a living organism, a fleshy mass disguised as a structure. The tower preys on the life force of others and uses its powers to distort and corrupt everything around it. Its fleshy form explains why bodies are taken once their energy has been sapped. Their flesh and bones are consumed to add to the tower's ever-growing mass of body parts. Those trapped inside are reduced to their most basic form. The dark side of their personalities manifest in physical form. For Six, who throughout both Little Nightmares games has shown to possess a cruel and sadistic persona, despite often having good intentions, this manifestation was represented clearly. A bitter, twisted, angry and vengeful creature, amplified by the signal tower, which exploits the very darkest reaches of one's soul. Her only comfort, as stated before, the music box she associated with happy memories, and in the cruelest of twists, the tower used this happy memory to bind her. Six was guarding her own imprisonment. With Six saved from the tower's control, the two adventurers make haste and rush for the exit, the tower now fully revealing itself as a gory mess of flesh, organs and eyeballs. Remember those eye symbols we see throughout the world of Little Nightmares, always watching. The eyes every—
Facts. It was a lot of them little eyeballs and joint. They was all across that joint. And
everyone seems upset.
I remember running the eyeballs at the end. The little eyeball world.
Well, they now make total sense, everywhere. Considering this structure that has warped the world into the nightmare it is made up from them. Six races ahead, but Mono stumbles. He is left behind as the bridge leading to their escape collapses. At first it seems as though Six will leave him. However, at the last minute, she doubles back and catches Mono by the hand, only to let him go a few moments later.
Right, that junk was lame. That joke was so lame.
So, why this sudden betrayal? Mono saves Six at the beginning of the game, once again in the schoolhouse, and then yet again from the confines of the signal tower. So it seems strange that Six would let him fall, and on purpose no less. However, if we consider the kind of person that Six is, things make a little more sense. You see, Six has always looked out for her own survival first and foremost, and when we consider the events of Little Nightmares 2 and the horrors she encountered while accompanying Mono, it is logical to conclude she grew tired of being put in harm's way. While Mono had saved her, he had also exposed her to many very perilous encounters. Add to that the fact we know Six is not a very trusting person, and after the hardships she has been subjected to, who can blame her? And if we pay close attention to the scenes in which Mono attempts to reach the door within the signal dimension, we can see the real reason he is ejected from these television sets is because Six pulls him out, sensing he is being drawn to something sinister. Knowing Mono possesses such radical powers, the same powers as Thin Man himself no less, would be a major red flag. It is likely Six felt threatened by Mono's presence and was worried he may turn on her at some point. Better to leave him behind and take no chances. But then, why did she return to him at all? Well, look to the exit. It is made up of a static portal, much like those television screens that Mono uses his powers to transition through at various points during their adventure. Six was never able to travel through these screens herself, because she did not possess such power. If we recall the ending of the original Little Nightmares, you will remember that Six drained the lady of her powers when she herself was powerless. This sequence seems to mirror that scene. Mono, now powerless, hangs in the balance, and Six returns to him and absorbs just enough of his power to allow her to escape without the aid of her newfound friend. We are given confirmation that 6 obtains an element of Mono's power in the game's true ending, unlocked by collecting up all 18 glitching remains. Here we witness 6 exiting the signal tower through a television screen, much like Mono does. However, this consumption of power has one terrible consequence. It causes 6 to glitch herself. Her body cannot handle this new energy, and so while 6 is able to channel the power of others, it changes her every time. In this first instance, 6 loses her soul, the good she had within. Her moral compass is removed, and in its place a hunger to fill the void. A hunger we know all too well. That's right, Little Nightmares 2 is no sequel, but a stealth prequel to the events of the original Little Nightmares. 6 walks to the mall, where she now carries an unquenchable desire to fill the void left by her split soul. A hunger which led to some unfortunate consequences.
When she ate the gnome.
So Little Nightmares 2 leads directly into the sequel, which we already played back in 2017. Mind blown, right? Now his use has been served, 6 discards Mono and leaves him to the mercy of the signal tower. But as she escapes, 6 doesn't quite realise the horrifying ramifications of her actions. Mono becomes trapped at the bottom of the tower, amongst the flesh and eyes, the signal tower then harnessing his remaining power and channeling itself through him. Mono takes a seat and returns the tower to its fake form, hiding its grotesque appearance behind brick and mortar once again. There is no happy ending here, no escape for poor Mono. Over the years we see him make a chilling transformation. The signal tower corrupts his body and mind. It uses his powers to broadcast out to the world and drain those of their life force, bending their bodies into hideous forms through the distorted signal it transmits. Mono becomes Thin Man. He has always been Thin Man. The story of Little Nightmares 2 is a never-ending cycle. Mono and his powers, exploited though they may be, are the cause.
Young Mono saves 6, Young Mono defeats Thin Mono, blah blah blah, 6 betrays. Oh, it's soon about 2 already.
Of all of the evil and suffering found in all 3 Little Nightmares games. 6's betrayal turned Mono's pure and innocent mind into one seething with anger and hatred, a hatred the tower now uses to its advantage. You may ask how Thin Man, who we will now refer to as Thin Mono, exists in the same time period as Young Mono. After all, the two of them threw down against one another. This is fairly easy to explain if we consider how a transmission works. The signal tower puts out a broadcast, but a broadcast has no particular tie to any time zone or period. It is simply a frequency, and as long as there is something to transmit that frequency, then anything living within it is free to travel across time, existing in a separate dimension altogether. So, as Thin Man, Mono is able to travel between past, present, and future at will. He simply required someone to free him from this prison, and thus travelled back to his childhood to try and trick his younger self into opening the door that imprisons him, freeing him from the signal tower's control and releasing him into the outside world. Here, Thin Mono attempts to destroy 6 and Young Mono, as their demise would mean an end to this cycle. It would stop 6 from betraying his younger self and prevent his eternal imprisonment inside.
Save Mono from life of torments at the tower. No betrayal, which led to 6 acquiring.
The tower. It would also save the world from eternal damnation. Unfortunately, Mono is always bested by his younger, stronger self, and so the cycle repeats forever, and Mono remains forever trapped. And with that, we have come to the end of this very long and very in-depth video. This is actually far longer than I had planned it to be, but hopefully you enjoyed it and now understand the world of Little Nightmares 2 a little better. Also, it should be said once again that there are many interpretations of this story, and this is simply mine. If you enjoyed watching today, remember to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more horror-related content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.
I mean, we're gonna watch the video 6 just in the comment section. Is 6 a villain or a victim? Alright, bet.
Following the ending of Little Nightmares 2, many people changed their mind about 6, with many claiming she's been a villain all along. But is that true? Is 6 really a villain, or is she just another victim of this dark and twisted world that she lives in? In today's video, I'm going to give my opinion and theories on why 6 behaved the way she did in Little Nightmares 2, giving evidence to support it from the entire franchise. Spoiler warning, if you haven't played all of the games yet, there are going to be spoilers for most of them, including the DLC and the prequel here, so if you haven't played them all, please skip off this video now unless you're okay with the spoilers. So if you have played, or watched, Little Nightmares 2, you will know that at the end, 6 decides to drop Mono rather than saving him, and many people now view 6 as a villain because of this. But to understand what could actually be going on here, we need to look at 6's journey across all the Little Nightmare games. For this, I am going to assume the most popular timeline, which is very Little Nightmares, Little Nightmares 2, and then Little Nightmares 1. Although quite a lot of my arguments could still work even if the order was different. So let's start at the Nest. The Nest is an airborne facility run by a number of twisted characters, but with the Pretender presumably being the one in charge. Here we can see children being held captive, and then it appears like they are killed or transformed. We see a number of gnomes here, which could imply they are transformed like the lady does to the runaway kid. But more alarmingly, we see a number of dolls being made out of what appears to be human skin. The Pretender uses these dolls to pretend, hosting tea parties and even movie nights. Yeah, maybe best not to send your kids here for a sleepover. All the while, we play as the girl in the yellow raincoat. Most people on their first playthrough assume this to be 6, although the ending hints heavily that the person who helps you along the way is actually 6, who escapes at the end.
Yeah, I finished
So 6 has been at the Nest where children are held captive and killed. We don't know how 6 got here, we don't know how long she has been here, but we do know that she has had to survive it, and she has also had to kill to do so. 6 is the one that drops the boulder on the Pretender, and while it doesn't kill her outright, it does lead to her leaping off the cliff with the girl in the yellow raincoat. The fall presumably killing them both. Now here is something that very few people talk about. 6 tries but fails to save the girl in the yellow raincoat. Why does she try and save her? That doesn't seem like something a villain would do. We see that she saves Mono several times in Little Nightmares 2, and we'll come back to that point later because it's very important. But at this point, 6 doesn't need to save the girl in the yellow raincoat. In fact, 6 could have easily made her escape while the Pretender was occupied. If we dig even further with this though, the girl in the yellow raincoat actually betrays 6. Just moments before the ending, the butler is chasing both girls towards the end of the game, and 6 is falling on the ground. The girl in the yellow raincoat leaves her and locks herself in a shed, leaving 6 banging on the door. So even after being left for dead by the girl, 6 still tries to save her, but fails. This could have all taken a toll on 6's mental state, being a child and not only watching several children being held captive and killed, but then attempting to save another but failing and killing someone in the process. This could have traumatized 6, leaving her with something called survivor's guilt. Closely linked to post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, survivor's guilt can be common amongst people who survive disasters or other traumatic situations when others don't. Symptoms of survivor's guilt include feelings of guilt about what they did or what they did not do during the traumatic event, obsessive thoughts about the event, irritability and anger, feelings of helplessness and disconnection, fear and confusion, lack of motivation, problems sleeping, headaches, social isolation, thoughts of suicide, and finally, nausea or stomachache. Now with these symptoms in mind, we can start to look at the events of Little Nightmares 2 in a different way. 6 is already suffering mentally from her time in Very Little Nightmares. We can see clearly that she has troubles with it, drawing the death of the girl on the wall, sleeping underneath a table, and monotonously playing the music box, almost disconnected from the world. It's only when Mono begins to hack down the door that she snaps awake from this trance, and look at how she reacts. Her first reaction is to run and hide. 6 at this point is definitely in survival mode. When Mono reaches out his hand, 6 slowly looks like she's going to take it, but then she runs again, knocking down Mono and fleeing. She doesn't trust him, but more than that, she's acting out of her survival instinct. That's what 6 is. A survivor. When it comes to the point that she cannot get into the attic without his help, 6 almost reluctantly comes to the realization that Mono is no threat, and she needs him to escape here. Now, why does 6 seem reluctant to accept his help in the first place? The most obvious answer? She's afraid to help another child like she did in Very Little Nightmares, knowing that the likelihood is that the other child won't survive. She's already riddled with survivor guilt, and she doesn't want to get close to another child, knowing the pain that it would cause her if that person was to die. However, as 6 and Mono work together to navigate this world, 6 realizes that Mono is not only capable, but he also has power. The fact that he can control the TV signal and enter it must have been noticed by 6. She's the one that pulls him out after all. So she must know that he has some level of power, and by this point 6 has accepted Mono as her ally. When we get to the point where 6 retrieves the yellow raincoat, and Game Assault by the way has a pretty cool video about how it could have gotten there, we could even interpret this moment to be the point where 6 comes to terms with the events of the first game, at least partially. Her accepting the raincoat could be her metaphorically accepting that she couldn't save the original owner. It's a very important step in 6's character arc. Not only has she accepted her role in the events of the nest, she is now literally wearing it as her armor. The survivor guilt gone, replaced by a newfound determination to survive no matter what the cost. Don't forget, she did attempt to kill the Pretender in Very Little Nightmares, and while it didn't succeed, it did lead to her death and the death of the girl. The moment she puts on the raincoat, the screen goes dark, almost like an eye blinking. This is a pretty obvious reference to the eye symbolism and perhaps foreshadowing, but it could also be 6 accepting that she will always have a dark side with her, a dark side that keeps her alive. We have another very important moment in 6's character arc. When 6 and Mono fall as one of the houses collapse in on them, 6 is trapped underneath the rubble and she desperately reaches out for Mono to save her. As he does, the two share a moment, both looking into each other's eyes. There are a number of ways you could interpret this. 1, that 6 is finally accepting that Mono is a good guy and a friend. 2, that 6 finally accepts that she can rely on others. Or 3, 6 has realized that other people are dangerous and that they get her trapped in the first place. I personally think that it's a little bit of each. I think in this moment, 6 is conflicted. She appreciates the help, but also struggles to accept that she needs Mono. So, as 6 and Mono continue towards the signal tower, we have a 6 who has gotten over her survivor's guilt and accepted a little part of her darkness. But when Mono releases the Thin Man from the TV, something that 6 tried to prevent several times, she tries to get Mono to run. You can see her grab at him, clearly trying to get him to flee, and clearly showing that 6 knows the Thin Man is a threat. When the Thin Man finally catches up to 6, Mono has the opportunity to help her, and 6 reaches out to him, but he doesn't. He chooses to hide. We as the players probably forgave Mono in this moment. He is a child and he's scared, but 6 might not have. Knowing that she would do anything to survive, and knowing that she has saved Mono several times in the game, this moment could be seen in 2 ways. 1, a betrayal, or 2, just another weak child who doesn't have what it takes to survive. This moment could have solidified it in her mind. She doesn't need Mono after all, because he is weak and she is strong. This moment leaves behind a shadow of 6, a glitching remains, and this could be the Dark 6 that we see in Little Nightmares and in the secret ending. It's hard to say, but either way it appears a piece of 6 is left here while the rest has been taken to the signal tower or TV dimension. We also have another important scene before we get to the end of the game. Before Mono is chased through the city by the Thin Man, we see 6 attempting to leave that realm via a TV, and we see that Mono tries and almost succeeds to pull her out before the Thin Man snatches her back again. This shows that even in the realm she's in now, 6 is still presenting that fierce survival instinct. She's surviving in that world, even attempting escape, but is currently unable to do so by herself. If you've seen my video on the tragic history of Mono, I go into detail about how Mono, and therefore the Thin Man, his biggest fear is being left alone, and this ties into the theory too. At this moment, 6 is yet again let down by Mono. He at least tries to save her this time, but he's too weak to do so. As the lone wolf survivor that 6 is, after all she spent most of her time in these games alone, this further reinforces her viewpoint that she doesn't need anyone else to survive. And this could explain Dark 6, but we'll come on to that shortly. So fast forward to the end of the game. Mono arrives at the signal tower, but we now see that Six was warped and twisted, physically and metaphorically. She has become a monster, but it is basically just an exaggerated version of herself. She is solitary, defensive, wary of strangers, and she takes comfort in her music box. She isn't actually all that different to the Six we see at the start of the game. In fact, the room here is set up very similarly. Her bed is on the left, she is alone with the music box, and she has images of people with scratched out faces on the wall. We could even go further and speculate that the girl on the picture in the wall is the girl in the yellow raincoat, which would actually debunk part of my theory in my last video on the lady. Now I need to make a whole other theory video. Thanks, brain. Well, let's take a look at the metaphorical message on display here. Six at the start of the game was riddled with survivor's guilt, and she takes comfort in solitude, her music box also being a huge part of making her feel better. She likes the music and being alone. And who disturbed that? Mono. Now we are in the signal tower, she is once again seeking comfort in solitude and her music box. Who comes in and disturbs that? Mono. He is literally and metaphorically destroying her comfort. This would make so much sense. A person who is struggling with severe PTSD, who managed to find some level of comfort and relief, only for that to be ripped away by Mono. Twice. When we finally break the music box, we see Six crying out in pain until she reverts to her normal self. But what many people seem to overlook is that Six's transformation into the monster Six is only the physical transformation. She has undergone a metaphorical one as well. We assume that Mono was breaking her music box to free her from the signal's corruption, trying to free her from her prison in the signal tower. But what if all along, he was freeing her from her own prison, her mental one? Mono breaking the music box was him breaking her last remaining need for comfort. By breaking it...
I've already got them copyright claims. I'm cool with it though. I'm honestly cool with it because I'm learning so much, realizing what's going on.
Six is now...
I've already reached them. Them copyright claims already hitting them.
Fully
YouTube they already all that.
Who she is. She is no longer weak. She is no longer that scared child we met at the beginning of the game. She is no longer guilt-ridden and broken. She is finally free. We could also interpret this as that she is finally pushed over the edge. This could be the last straw for her. Maybe in her freedom, she has finally embraced the madness. Almost like a Joker meme going on right now. We see yet another small moment between the two. Six looks at Mono for a moment. This moment could mean so many things. But knowing that Mono has now twice disturbed Six's peace, and twice now she has been trapped because of him, I think this is Six giving Mono a disapproving look. So when we come to the final chase scene and Mono falls behind like Six did in Very Little Nightmares, Six follows her instinct and stays behind to save Mono. Many people call Six evil or a villain, but she could have just left him to die and left through the TV. We can see that the TV has already been activated, and we know that Mono only activates the signal in the TV, so it can be assumed that Six is already free to leave. We see that Six falls back to her instincts. Her instinct to help people like she did in Very Little Nightmares even after she was betrayed. But when she grabs Mono by the hand, she gets a good look at his face. This is yet another key moment in the relationship between Mono and Six. Six can see Mono without his mask now. She can see his true face. And I think this is where Six figures out who he is. She sees his true form. That of the Thin Man, yes, but more than that. She sees him for what she considers to be a weak boy, one who is afraid of being alone, so much so that he will imprison those around him. And in this moment, Six decides she will never be trapped again. By dropping Mono and leaving him to his own fate, yes, she betrays him, but she finally lets go of her conflict. She finally realizes that other people are liabilities, ones that will get her trapped. And ones that don't come through when she needs them the most. She will never let that happen again. She will never rely on another person. She will do whatever it takes to survive, and this moment is her finally committing to that. She doesn't need anyone, not anymore. This is the moment that Six accepts her darkness fully. In the secret ending, after Six leaves the TV realm, we see that she is standing face to face with Dark Six. Dark Six nods towards them more, and Six begins to feel the hunger pains. Now this is pure speculation, but what if the reason she is feeling the hunger pains now is that she is starting to grow up? After all, we see that the adults in this world all seem to get twisted in some way, only the children appear to be unaffected. Mono has powers, but he seems good until he grows to be the Thin Man. We see the Pretender having similar powers to the Lady, yet the Pretender looks relatively normal while the Lady has a warped and twisted face. One of the reasons why Six is now feeling the hunger is because she left her childhood innocence behind in the TV realm. After all, we know that time is broken, we don't know how long she's been in there for. She grew as a character, and metaphorically this means she's now starting to become twisted like everything else in this world. Either that, or her accepting the darkness, visually represented here by Dark Six, is also what caused her to become twisted. So to summarize, I don't think that Six is a villain. I think that she is a survivor. She is human, and yes, she has a dark side, but who doesn't? Everyone has their darker side, and Six has been through far more than most, especially for a child. Her monstrous nature is a product of her world and her experiences, and her journey is a metaphor that many can relate to. So that is my opinion on whether or not Six is a villain. If you enjoyed this theory, I have a bunch more on the channel. I also have more horror gaming content, so if you want to check those out, I will leave a couple of videos up on the screen now that you can give a click if you want to. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.
I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this, bro, because, like, yeah, it makes sense. But, like, bro, like, did it really have to end like that? Like, it didn't have to end that way. Like, they could have changed it up a little bit. Like, that jump was unnecessary. Bruh. That game was crazy. I ain't gonna lie. Okay, I might have to play Little Nightmares 3. And I say that because I gotta know what happened to Six. Like, who will be the next character? It can't be Mono, because Mono's an enemy now. Not an enemy, but I guess you could say a villain, or not a main. I don't know. He's just not main character type, unless they like start off how Mono got to the situation he was in. Like, where would they? I guess I would have to be Six in Little Nightmares 3. That's one thing I could think of, man. Mono Revenge. That would be kind of crazy. Mono Revenge. I mean, I would say Six is kind of the villain for real. Because, like, if you think about it like this. Like, you could have... Like, what he said before in the first video, saying, like, all of it could have been avoided, like, Mono becoming Thin Man by just Six letting him go with him, with her. Like, that whole Thin Man situation could have been avoided because of the time cycle, whatever. I mean, you kind of are a victim because of the PTSD from Very Little Nightmares, or whatever it's called, the first one. I guess you could say you are a victim. I mean, you can't really blame Six, for real. You can't really blame her, like, because she been through so much. So, like, you know, but she kind of, like, continued the cycle, you know? Like, she continued the cycle from what she experienced. Then she doubled it again with what she did to Mono. And then probably gonna keep on doing it again, making all these people. Then they most likely gonna turn against her. Who knows what the lady with the raincoat turned to? Or the girl with the raincoat. That probably was a whole nother, you know, monster. Like, Six might be just creative monsters by betraying them, if that makes sense. Who knows? I don't know, this game crazy, bro. I don't think it's any other videos for me to watch. Should I just take a little stream break real quick? Oh man, we've only been streaming for like what, three or 4 hours, 3 hours maybe. Solid 3 hours. Make sure y'all like up the stream if y'all still in here, man. Probably gonna come back. We probably gonna end the night off with a 2K stream, cause I'm feeling a 2K move, man. This jump was crazy, bro. I like 6 though. The producers did an amazing job on this game, man. Yeah, this joke was fire. Alright. So yeah, I'm probably gonna end this stream. I'm probably gonna be back around 9 p.m. Eastern. Maybe 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I gotta finish this homework, man. Like an hour and 30 minutes. I know everybody in here probably don't enjoy 2K. Everybody came for little nightmares, but man, what am I doing? Hitman? Okay, should I do Hitman tomorrow? I could knock out Hitman tomorrow. Or not knock it out, but start it. What you think? I might start Hitman 3 tomorrow. I do want to play some 2K though. I'm trying to play a lot of 2K this week. Yeah. Yeah, we gonna start Hitman 3 tomorrow, man. I don't know why I feel so tired. So yeah, we gonna start Hitman 3 tomorrow. 2K stream coming later. Hopefully get Rain. Might get Kino. Burn the van. Yeah, 2K is trash, but it's fun to play. Love playing. Love playing. Just the Rain. But yeah, man, thank y'all for coming through. Make sure y'all like up the stream, etc., etc. I'll see y'all in a little bit. I'm out. Oh, and 6. Thanks for helping me during the stream. What was 6? Carlos, Radil, Kino, Rain helped me a little bit. And other people. But yeah, man, glad y'all watched to the end. If you watched to the end, if you've been in the stream, etc., make sure y'all like it up, all that. Make sure y'all sub, turn on post notifications. Hitman 3 coming tomorrow.